to see them win was the most exciting thing, and probably something I'll never forget. I will never forget the tears that we cried, and I'll never forget the hugs and just how we held each other for so long. And, I get choked up thinking about it.
Well, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Hit Zero Show. This interview is long time coming and is like the unicorn of interviews because, as I was recently informed, this is the first. So
That's right.
So honored to have our guest with us. This guy's resume and cheer is so incredibly robust, and he's going to hate me for saying long, but long.
It is what it is, man.
So world-renowned, one of the top choreographers, one of the most creative minds to ever step on a cheer mat, international speaker, amazing human being, and truly a visionary for our sport. I've had the pleasure of knowing Ray for a few years now, and more than anything have just been honored to be able to call him a good friend. So thank you so much for taking the time and joining me for this episode, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, man, it's an honor to be here, and I have plenty of time. So
because we're all stuck in our little caves.
Right.
So,
exactly.
So, obviously you've had an extensive history in the sport, going all the way back to, the earliest I've seen of you is demo videos for NCA.
Right. Which recently just surfaced. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Personally, the work that I've done most with you has been with Stars Vipers. You're Ray. For those that don't know, Ray is and his company Action Spirit is the skills and choreography group that Stars utilizes for their programs. If you look back at the awards, the championships, and the placements that the team has had over the years, Ray's creativity and his incredible staff have been a huge catalyst in that success. And so being able to work with him and just kind of take a step back and watch him work is truly it's art. It's really incredible.
Well, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. But I can't take all the credit for that. I'm around a lot of crazy people that definitely, have my back, and
you've got an awesome
our
team.
Visionaries.
Yeah, you've got an awesome team. And I do want you to go into to telling about the team that you work with and how your business has evolved. But before we do that, I think leading into that would just be a little bit more detail about your history. So take us back to like the beginning of cheer for you, and tell us the story of how that beginning evolved into Jasper choreography.
Okay. Well, listen, I've been in this business for a very long time before even All Stars was around. So I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet for you guys so you don't get too bored. Okay. I was in high school, and I had probably one of the most popular cheerleaders come up to me and ask me to compete with them. And I went to their first practice, and it was love at first sight. I had a blast, and it was more of the competitive side than it was game day. And I didn't really find that passion until we went to NCA Nationals in Dallas, Texas. And that, NCA is, if you've never been to NCA, it's a magical experience, to say the least. Production is just bar none. It's like no one can compete with them. And I was just blown away and mesmerized by the energy and the competition. And I've always been a competitive person, so I found my niche. And after NCA, and I think we did average, to say the best. I mean, I think it was like 10th or 11th, and we were excited about that. I wasn't, but got back and I said, hey, let me choreograph the routine. Have zero experience in dance. I just know what I saw, and I knew what the crowd liked just from the reaction, and I tried to emulate that. And it was awesome. We went to California State, and we were placed in the top 3. And at that time, this is old now, at that time, there weren't real divisions. There was a varsity and a JV. and all girl and co-ed competed against each other. So
Really?
there was, yes, yeah. So there was myself and one other guy on the team, and we went against Mater Dei and Los Alamitos, and those are, historically some of the most iconic teams, that started off the what we have, like the West Coast style, the very flashy styles, and
Mm-hmm.
and I was, just in awe of that. And we competed against that. We went against teams that had 13, 14 boys, and it was a massacre. But, with having two guys and with the choreography, it was one of those things that my teammates figured, wow, you actually know what you're doing. Even though I don't think I did. I think I just kind of like went with the flow,
Uh-huh.
and it turned out pretty awesome. So shortly after that, I graduated, like I did it my senior year, and it was short lived. And I happened to run into a girl that was a competitive cheerleader at a high school that I ended up coaching for about 20 years, I think, about
Wow.
20 years. Yeah. And I started working and choreographing and coaching them, both the JV and varsity. And I did it for about, like I said, 20 years. And I worked for free for about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to school. I was going, I had 2 jobs and then cheerleading. And that's pretty much what I did for all my youth, just growing and learning as I went. And then got asked to be on NCA staff. And that was the turning point for me. NCA staff really shaped me. And I come off as a very quiet person, and shy. And NCA kind of changed that whole thing for me, and just opened up a new world. I worked with so many incredible people, and it, like I said, NCA just shaped me and gave me direction. And after that, it was like full steam ahead. All Stars started in San Diego, and I was part of the first All Star program in San Diego. Shortly after that, I started my own program,
Mm-hmm.
which is now has morphed into Cheer Force San Diego. So it was Champion Outlaws,
Mm-hmm.
and there was California All Stars, and also Mavericks. And yeah, Mavericks and Champion came together and started Cheer Force. And so I shortly after that, I got a job doing Bring It On, and that was pretty incredible. And
So that's the
from Bring
original,
It On,
the original Bring It
the
On.
original Bring It On, yeah. So it opened a lot of doors for me. It kind of gave me another, level of exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was awesome. I realized, coaching for that long, it kind of took its course for me, and I wanted to travel. I just was hungry to, work with people from all over the country at that time, the country. And yeah, it was like nonstop. So, being home for this long, I honestly have not been home this long in 25 years.
Wow. Yeah, I mean,
Because I've been working, just
every time
hustling,
I
going.
see, and I've texted you from time to time. Like, I don't know what time it is where you are, but I hope you're having fun.
Exactly. Hey,
So
join the club, man.
yeah, right.
A lot of my friends do that. Yeah.
So you started, so it continued on. So when did we? So I know obviously UC or NCA was a big catalyst and kind of propelling you forward, really starting to build your name as a choreographer. So what do you consider
Yeah.
was like the next leap to where kind of like where you are now?
Well, okay. So, like I said, Bring It On kind of opened doors for me, and gave me that type of exposure. And I worked in commercials. I did a couple commercials. I worked for Disney, did a little, here and there, that kind of stuff, and was almost phasing myself out of the cheerleading industry,
Mm-hmm.
and and going into the entertainment industry. And I realized that was short lived for me, because I realized that my passion is working with, athletes,
Mm-hmm.
and working with hungry athletes, people, competitive athletes, and I guess that's the only kind of athlete you can have, is a competitive one. So yeah, I was missing that. So I gave up all that hoopla, and I went back into it and focused really hard with working with the programs that I worked with. And at that time, there weren't these super mega gyms. There was Cheer Athletics and whatnot, because they've been around for a while, but and Top Gun, but there wasn't a lot of, hype like there is now. And so for me, I stayed with the gyms, these small gyms, and I really worked hard. I nurtured those relationships, and they became pretty good, really pretty, and doing well in competitions. And as they did well, that got my name out there. And it was just kind of a no-brainer. And honestly, it wasn't, cheerleading has this celebrity status type thing. I've never once had it in my head like that. I just do my job because I love my job, and I work with these athletes, and I look forward to work with these athletes and coaches. And that is really where my focus was. And and then the cheerlebrity stuff started happening, and people saying, "Oh, you're one of the top choreographers." I'm like, okay, whatever. It didn't really like mean anything to me.
Right.
What meant anything, that meant it was like the teams that did well. That's what was important for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it my teams did good, and it gave me more exposure. And then I started traveling internationally. So now I do this year round. And it's funny because I have this one story about my mom saying, this cheerleading is never going to take you anywhere. What are you doing with this? And I'm sure a lot of kids out there have, their parents say the same thing to them.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom and dad just really were against it. And I just followed my passion, and I struggled and sacrificed a lot. Like I said, I was working 2 jobs and was going to school and all that. And it was, but I never once resented. I loved it so much. It was just, I couldn't wait to get into the gym. So, I think the passion is what gave me these opportunities that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. So how many countries have you worked with, and have you done choreography?
Oh man. I mean, I haven't counted, but I'm definitely, at least 10,
Okay.
off the top of my head. Yeah.
That's amazing. So
yeah, I'm pretty blessed.
yeah. and it's, you said something towards the end of kind of leading up to the countries thing where, you talked about the passion of seeing, the cheerlebrity versus just the passion of seeing, the athletes you work with
Right.
succeed. And, for those that haven't worked with Ray, when you're at a big competition, you will see you, and then it's okay. I got to go see my other team. I got to go see my other team. I got
Yeah.
once you work, with, to our audience, once you work with Ray, you realize that it truly is an investment in, in your program. It's not a job to him. You can tell that from the second he walks in the door that he's not doing a job. He's truly pouring into your program, and he sees it all the way through. I mean, there's times I think I saw you at Worlds, and I was like, we were having a conversation, and I turned my back for 2 seconds, and I looked back and you were gone. And I was like, where did Ray go?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, he had to go watch another team. He had to run to the pavilion. He's in another team. I was like,
yeah.
Okay, Ray.
Yeah.
See ya.
It's I know. I hate bringing friends with me that have nothing to do with cheerleading, because they're like, Disney World, I want to go with you, I want to see what you do, and they get a taste of Worlds and how chaotic it is, and they're just like, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, right.
Welcome to my world, but I enjoy doing that though.
It's and it's you and then the relationships that you have and that you've made, you're this amazing catalyst that brings other people together too, with the reach that you've had. And just with me personally getting to meet some of your friends and connections in Australia, and to connect with that group. And you truly are, you're this middle ground where you're just bringing all these people together. And
I love that. Yeah.
And
honestly, I that's one of the things that I love doing. I love bringing together friends from different countries and getting to compare notes and, chit chat about whatever, even if it's not cheerleading, and I enjoy that. I mean, it's awesome. I like to think that I'm around a lot of amazing people. They're all positive, and why not bring all of us together, and network with each other. I mean, that's what it's about.
I think a lot of people may not realize that outside of the US and some of the big countries that we see at ICU, that it's, cheer is still the Wild West. It's still very, it's very archaic in a lot of places. I've got friends that cheered, or that were on Team Austria that would send me pictures
Yeah.
of where they practice, and it's
Oh, I
like
know.
wooden floors, wooden walls, like it's the gym
I,
from the
I,
1920s, and a cheer mat and a dead
I,
mat. And
I can top those, man. I can tell you some places, and it would blow the North America away. These athletes, I mean, because these kids come in and go, it's hot in here, and blah blah blah, and I'm like, there, you guys have air conditioning. What are you talking about? You know, where, and then there's a team in Mexico where they practice on top of on this roof, this building, a 3-story building, and they set the mats out because that's the only area that they have flat, and they're tumbling
wow,
on top of a 3-story building. I mean, it blows my mind, you know. And you go to Colombia, and these kids they don't have mats, you know, so
yeah,
they're throwing, you know, double fulls and whip through to this and yada 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 on grass, and it's just, you know, they don't know any better, you know. They're again, these people, these kids, these athletes are doing it because they love it, you know, it's their passion,
mm-hmm.
and you know, they just kind of don't see all the you know, the obstacles.
Mm-hmm.
They just do it.
Yeah. Now I know you don't measure your success this way, so this may not be a
Okay.
question that you are actually able to answer, but just to give an idea of how deep your success with the programs that you've worked with is. Do you have any idea how many worlds, first, second, or thirds, or NCAs, or summits, or cheer sports that your choreography
Oh my
has?
gosh, really?
I mean, if you had to guess a ballpark number, just to because I know, I mean, I
Okay,
don't know.
you know
You
me
may,
better. Hey, you know me better than this, Travis. I
I
don't like
know,
to brag
I
about
know you
stuff like
don't, but
that. It just sounds.
I know it's not a brag thing. I asked. It's not you telling.
Okay, okay. All right, fair enough, fair enough. I mean, I guess off the top of my head, at least 9 or 10 worlds titles. Summit, can't even I don't even know. I mean, you know, one of the memory things came up on my Facebook, and I think I had posted something. I guess I was having one of those days where I was like, yeah, I'm going to brag. But I posted, it was like, I want to say like 8 or 9 first place, you know, like 7 second place, you know, and a handful of third place. But, you know, honestly, I mean, I want to say that's not important. It is important because at the end of the day, we're competitive cheerleaders, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But that is not the focus for me. My focus is making sure those kids walk on that stage and come off that stage excited
Mm-hmm.
and you know, wanting to do it again and having that rush, not, you know, walking off that stage going, okay, I'm done with this, you know,
Sure.
I'm over cheerleading. I want them to want more, you know, and that's where my focus is. You know, I've never been one to say, hey, you have to win or first place is important. That's not my job, you know? So, yeah. So when you ask me questions like, you know, how many first place, it's a little,
I know it's not one for you, which is kind of why I
No.
wanted to ask you. I just wanted to see you squirm a little
Yeah,
bit,
of course you would.
but you know, but we have to say, you know, if it's not our focus, and I think that any quality coach or program, you know, director is going to agree that, you know, titles aren't the primary focus when you're working with young athletes, but we
Not at
also
all.
have to be critical and say, if we're going to, you know,
Right. I
bring
get
in
it.
support, we need to
There's a
validate.
balance. You have
Yeah.
to have somewhat of a balance. Yeah,
You go to any
absolutely.
job,
I
you know,
get
any
that.
job, like, we need a resume. Like, no, that's not important of what I've done. It's what.
Right. I see
So,
what you mean.
so,
Yeah.
what are any current? I mean, aside from everything that's been going on, let's say leading up to that, what was your current situation? Like, what projects were you working on? Is there any, you know, anything that
Oh,
was
I mean,
aside from what you typically do that was special?
well, I mean, honestly, it was everybody was gearing up for Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a different country when the whole situation happened, you know, pandemic happened, and I was in fear of getting stuck in that country, and that country wasn't in the same uh, phase, I guess, or same. At that point, they you know, they thought they were okay and they were free from this pandemic, which
Mm-hmm.
is blows my mind. And so, you know, we were carrying on with choreography and whatnot, and finally I just said, hey, look, I got to get home. And so I, you know, got home, and not thinking that Worlds and all this was going to be canceled. But, that's pretty much what my focus was Worlds,
Mm-hmm.
and actually I was supposed to be in Australia for a couple weeks prior to Worlds, and, getting teams in Australia ready for Worlds and also for their season, because their season runs opposite of ours.
Okay.
So, I mean, I didn't really have any different events, so to speak, besides Worlds, and to look forward to, and traveling outside the country. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So, speaking of with the teams that you work with, I know we touched on Action Spirit and your your amazing team that you put together and that you work with each season. Tell us about kind of the details of Action Spirit, the history of Action Spirit, what you guys like, what's what sets Action Spirit apart, what makes you guys different, and for people that may be interested in looking into choreography with you in the future, what can they expect from Action Spirit?
Okay, well, listen, Action Spirit is basically an extension of, when I first started, Action Spirit was an extension of me,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, the the philosophy behind starting this company was to get teams prepared for choreography, because I was going into choreography with these ideas and trying to teach them the skills and whatnot, and the teams just weren't gelling with them. They weren't getting it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's hard to get in someone's mind and creative mind, and know exactly this is how you do stuff. And a lot of the stuff that we were coming up with, there weren't set drills for at that time. So cheerleading's definitely evolved since then, but Action Spirit was just a tool to prepare teams for choreography. And so, we formed a curriculum, and in that curriculum, we built the levels up so that whenever a choreographer, if it's not myself, it could be Brendan or Brooklyn or TJ, I have an amazing group of, people in our network. And, if it wasn't, if it wasn't me or them choreographing the routine, we would at least set those teams up for success for a choreographer. And that's pretty much what Action Spirit was about.
Mm-hmm.
And now, now that training is very important, and a lot of programs want it, we've had to extend that, the content. And we created, other classes that can help prepare teams for their season.
Gotcha.
And, a lot of people say this is a skills camp. It is a skills camp, but more or less the focus is on choreography and how to think outside the box, and how, here, for instance, here's a double up. Okay, well, that we've seen a double up 9 million times. Let's do a different entry into it, or
Mm-hmm.
a different exit out of it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much where our focus was. And anytime that we started our camps, we would say, okay, let's think outside the box. And, we've been very blessed to be around so many creative people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, that has been the thing. Anytime we bring people into our network, one of the first things we look at is if they're passionate, and if they're creative, and whatnot. And, because too many times I've been with NCA where people just were on staff for the wrong reasons, to show off, or, to showboat, do whatever. And that's not what we're about. We are about trying to create a product that no other company's doing.
Yeah.
And I think we've done a pretty good job of that.
I agree. I definitely agree. And when you look at, the larger organizations, you were NCA staff, I was UCA staff, we both understand the inner workings of, we have to create a product that can be pushed to the masses and be specialized at home. Right. And so it's very uniform, which isn't bad, but it's for a different purpose. And the one thing that I found really, at first I thought it was extremely unique, but then as you watch it kind of unfold, was when you guys come in to do, Action Spirit, as you talk about, you're coming in with ideas of what you are going to parlay these skills into. So it's almost like you're setting yourself up for your choreography versus like, we're going to teach you everything and then we'll piece it together later. So, and watching.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it was. You're right. That's exactly, and I'm glad that you saw that, because that is exactly what the game plan was.
And when you work, and for the programs that are, considering working with Ray, you realize when you have that type of choreography and it's done, the skills leading into the choreography that way, it puts you ahead time-wise so much more, because you're not starting your choreo from scratch. You're starting your choreo with an idea of what it was going to be from the beginning, and you've already got the idea of what skills you can do. So we're not going to spend weeks on end trying to then say, well, we got double ups, but how are we going to transition that into something new? Now let's piece it together. His team, you and I've sat, and when you first came in for choreo, and before you did anything, and for Action Spirit, and you're like, oh yeah, I've been thinking about this sequence that this, and I was talking with Brooklyn about this stunt, this pyramid, and this and that, and it's like, then you're working the skills for it versus the other way around. And it truly does, I think, create a lot more confidence in the kids, because they're already starting to envision what the routine's going to look like versus clean slate. So I think that's I think that you can only do that on a small scale, though. Like, you can't.
Exactly. And that's funny, because you're right. We've been offered to work with so many gyms, and some of the really big gyms, and we just can't facilitate that. Not with the type of curriculum that we have. It's just, we're creating, 40 level 1 stunts, 50 level 6 stunt. It's each group gets a unique stunt, or a sequence, and it's just, you try to do that all summer long and try to outdo yourself year by year, and it's a big responsibility, and it's a lot of pressure. And we know that our strength is being intimate, being creative, and I feel like we would lose that if we were on a larger scale like NCA. We would definitely, the quality would not be there. So we're happy to keep it where we are. And eventually, if we get a new gym in there, that's great. We'll just push harder. But for the most part, we pretty much stay the same size. We've been the same size for the last 10 years, and we're happy with that.
Yeah, I would almost think that you guys would, most teams and programs kind of lament the rule changes from year to year, and I feel like you guys are like, oh, a rule change, that means we have a whole new thing of choreo. We got new ideas. It just makes it easier. It's kind of like your spoon. You can't do that anymore, so here's what you can do.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's tough. We do have some people on our staff that are incredible with rules and learning how to get into the gray areas. And so that's something I used to always do. And now you've got all these young people around me, and they're like, oh, you can do this, and this grip can happen this way. And it's just, I'm always learning. I've been doing this for so long, but I have not stopped learning. And that's what I think has given me longevity. It has given me, this that I'm able to work this long.
You've got an evergreen product. That's
I appreciate that.
That's hard for a lot of businesses. So speaking of your staff and where you guys have been, what's the future look like for you, for Jasper Choreography, for the staff, the kids that you look to hire and work with, and the coaches that you work with? So what's the future look like for you?
Well, I hope it looks bright. We're gonna keep pushing and try to try to stay ahead of the curve, and try to be innovative, and and by hiring new staff. And I work with so many kids, and I see so many kids that just have so much potential, and that's pretty much how we hire. We're exposed to these kids and these athletes, and we see that that it factor, and we hire them, and that's what keeps Action Spirit so fresh. It's like we're always bringing in passionate, creative standouts, and it's the future for us is bright. I don't see us stopping anytime soon. We've got a great group of leaders, between TJ, Brooklyn, Brendan, all that. And I mean, there's so many, I can just go down the list. And I just, like I said, I don't see us slowing down anytime soon. We've talked about doing events and whatnot. And we thought, okay, is that going to, spread ourselves thin? And that has always been a fear of mine, getting too big too fast. And we toyed with the idea, and then we figured, you know what? No, we're not going to do that because it will probably affect everything else that we're doing, and I'm just not ready to do that. No matter what, I don't care if we have 5 gyms, as long as that quality is, A plus.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about like crossing into different offerings with what you do, like maybe music or things like outside of just choreo and dance? Has that ever been a thought? Or
Yeah. Actually, I mean, we do have something in the works with gymnastic or tumbling, and for me, I do get a lot of people that want to join our network, and kind of you scratch my back, I scratch your back type thing.
Mhm.
But for me, it makes me a little nervous bringing in someone that I have nothing to do. I have no power over. I mean, right now I'm actually telling you I'm a control freak. So, I have no power over this, and if they do somebody wrong, I'm gonna feel awful. You know what I mean? So, I'm very hesitant in bringing in other companies. Where I don't have the what am I trying to say? The experience, to make sure that there's follow through. Does
Sure.
that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Because we get a lot of companies here, and I hear nightmare stories about, oh, this person didn't get their music, or this person didn't show up, or this. And that's something I've always told my staff, you will follow through. Don't make a schedule or don't commit to something and flake, because your word is your bond. And so, and it seems to be an issue in our industry. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like to bring in another company to, promote, just because of that
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah.
But who knows? You never know.
And you're yeah. I mean, it's different aspects of the industry too. I think that are most frustrating. You look at, obviously, music and things like that are terrible. Like, but then also apparel and the
Yeah, I was
nitpickiness.
just going to say that.
So
Yeah,
nitpickiness
you're right.
of
I mean, I've
event
had my own
producers.
nightmares with apparel. Yeah, I've had my own nightmares with apparel, and I've had a couple companies say, "Hey, we'll do this, this, and that." I'm just like, "No, thanks." I am one of those people. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
I agree. So outside of cheer, I mean, obviously, I know you kind of tie your passion for travel in with cheer. I know that there's
Right.
trips you take that are mix. You do a little bit of cheer, a little bit of
Absolutely,
vacation, and I
yeah.
know that some are completely separate. But um, what are things that you enjoy doing that are outside of the sport, that when you know and I know all of us that love cheer still at times are like, I need a
Long
small
walks on the
break.
beach. I like long walks on the beach. No, I'm kidding. Traveling actually is my first. I love that. I love traveling and seeing the country, and trying new foods out. I mean, yeah. I mean, who doesn't like that? It's just it's such a big world out there. It's like I want to experience it. So
What's your favorite country you've been to?
so far, well, I was supposed to be in Greece for my birthday, so I would have probably, a lot of people say Greece is amazing. But so far, Italy is my favorite country. We went last season right after Worlds,
Mhm.
and it was incredible. It was
Yeah,
mind blowing.
I didn't hate your
Beautiful
views from your hotel room.
country. Beautiful country, beautiful people. I also went for a wedding. A good friend, she's from England, and I met a lot of her friends, and they're from all over
Mhm.
the world, which was nice. You know, meeting people from all over. It was
Yeah.
cool.
What you know, what inspires you to continue to push on? What's your thing when you get up in the morning and you're like, obviously I know you love what you do, so it's not like you need a lot of
Yeah.
motivation to live a dream, but in those few times when you need to pick me up mentally, what is your inspiration to keep going?
Uh, you know what? It's the people around me, and I know that sounds super cheesy. The people around me that's what inspires me. Like I said before, I work with a great group of people, and they've got fire in them. And when I'm hitting a low, and I'm just kind of like I want to check out, they pick me up. They're so incredibly passionate. They're brilliant. And when I see that, it just kind of lights my fire. I travel a lot with Ted Good, and he is one of the most incredible people in our industry. And he's with me almost 90% of the time of my travel. And there are moments where I'm just like, oh, I can't get out of bed. I'm so exhausted. And he knows the right things to say. He's amazing. And also I have an amazing partner who, where I'll say, hey, I just don't feel like doing this. And he'll look at me and he'll go, you need to do it. You need to follow through. You need to go, and it's awesome. He's been there to push me through it. So when you say what inspires you, people inspire me.
Yeah.
My friends inspire me, and yeah, and the kids, the athletes.
Yeah. And I've been fortunate enough to get to meet a lot of the folks that are around you when you go, and
they're crazy.
I don't know. I mean, I love Ted. That man, if he could, just keep him keep him on speed dial. Ted, give me 30. I need a 30-second pick me up.
That's the thing, they keep you on your toes. They're like you said, they've got fire in them. They keep everything is funny. Is a witty comment.
Mm-hmm.
Brendan's another one who's just so quick.
Yeah.
So it makes my job so fun. And honestly, I don't really call what I do a job because I just love it so much, and a lot of my friends say you're a workaholic, and I'm like, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I do go through moments where I'm just I'm exhausted, physically and mentally, but I'm so lucky to have those people,
I'll tell you, it's when you talk about like Ted and the staff that you have, and, you talked about like having people that you trust that you work with that, that keeping that high level of quality, right?
Right.
When you guys came back, the second time around, so after when we were making our modifications and tweaks to the routine, and I think it was it was Miss Hiss was there working. I think it was Miss Hiss was there working, and it was like the gym was done, and it was like 10 o'clock, and Ted was still fully caffeinated, high octane Ted. And the rest of us are sitting like this.
Stardust is our best friend.
We're just like sitting here, and Ted's like, just hadn't turned it off.
Energizer Bunny.
I was like, you've been going for like 15
well, man,
hours.
we're on a time crunch. We're on a time crunch. You got to get stuff done.
Their routine came out so incredible.
I know
they did so well.
Bummed. Yeah, I'm really bummed they didn't get to showcase that.
I know, it's frustrating. What is your proudest moment in your cheer career? I know that's might be. I know you may have it get ready to go, but if you think back, you're like, you know what? This was the moment that when I'm on my deathbed, this is the moment that made it all worth it.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm gonna go back to when I got to see kids that I've coached, who are now coaches, and they, they work with really amazing, an incredible program, Cheer Force, when they won Worlds for the first time. Like it was to see them win was the most exciting thing, and probably something I'll never forget. I will never forget the tears that we cried, and I'll never forget the hugs and just how we held each other for so long. And I get choked up thinking about it because this is a girl and a guy. They're married now, Annalisa and Andrew. I coached them when they were kids. They were 9th, 10th graders. And now they're married, have kids, and they coach, this incredible program, Infinity. And when they won Worlds, it was one of the most incredible moments of my life. Yeah, I'll never forget that.
There's
to see them succeed.
Oh, for sure. There's you read the self-help books and entrepreneur and your mindset books and things like that, and leadership and you talk about the levels of leadership, and there's this fifth level of leadership where leaders basically create leaders. And you talk about how when you get to a point to where you can take people so far, but then when you can bring someone to a point where they are then able to do what you have done for them, that's like
And
that
better.
pinnacle. Yeah.
You know,
So that's cool, man, that, you know, that for you to have that success for others be your biggest moment, I think speaks
absolutely.
tremendously of your character and of your, where
Oh,
your heart
thanks.
lies.
Thank you.
You know, I could sit here and talk to you all day. So, but
I know,
just
man. We haven't
I
caught
love
up
getting
in
to
a
talk with you.
while.
It's
So.
been, yeah, it's been so long. I'm
I know.
like
We always do like
TikTok,
a
where's
crash
Ray?
course. I know. As soon as we get to the gym, we're doing a crash course on, hey, what's going on? How
What
you
have you been
doing?
doing for the
Oh, this
last 2
hurt.
months?
Oh,
Lay down, I'll fix you.
yeah, yeah.
So advice.
Yes.
You've got tons of experience, the success, obviously the mindset and your heart is where it should be. So to our coach, we'll make it a couple different parts.
All
To
right.
our athletes, to our coaches, and to the parents of cheer athletes, what advice could you give?
Okay, we'll start with the athletes first. My advice, Deb. You know, let's see. How do I want to say this? Do what you love. You know, stay with it. It's hard. You know, the sport isn't easy, and I just say follow your passion, and yeah, don't let anybody deter you from what you love, and just stay focused. You know, this is one of those sports that's it's grueling on the body. It's demanding. So you know, just have fun. Try, you know, just have fun. I think there's so much pressure on these kids to win and do this and you know, I think that sometimes takes away from what's really important. You know, they do this because they love it, and we need to remember that as coaches and choreographers and gym owners. We need to make sure that they still love it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what's first and foremost. That's what's important.
For sure.
And for coaches, I mean, it's the same advice. You know your kids. I think a lot of coaches, you know, get to the point where you know they're coaching 5, 6, 7 teams, and it blows my mind that sometimes coaches. I don't. I mean, I come across it every now and then, not so much lately, because I walk in and I'll know their names in an hour, less than an hour. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and some of the coaches like, I don't even know their name. I just call her redhead or whatever. And I'm like, that's rude, you know, like you should know your kids. So I say to coaches, know your kids,
Mm-hmm.
you know what makes them tick. And that's how you're going to get the best results out of your kids,
Mm-hmm.
you know, by knowing them.
Yeah.
And to parents, leave your kids alone. Let them do their thing, you know.
Yeah.
You know, don't try to coach the coaches, and you know, just enjoy your kids growing in the sport.
I think that's
I don't
huge.
know if that was very profound, but
No,
that's
it's huge. I think with the parent piece especially is if you trust enough in a program to
right.
spend that much time and effort and energy and
Yeah.
in it, let them do it.
Right. Exactly.
I think that's not
Exactly.
it's
It's the worst thing to do, and I hear it across the board, all over the world. You know, you've got your stage parents, and it's and I used to own a gym, and I remember that was probably one of the worst parts of my job is, not all the parents. I don't want to give all the parents a bad rap, but it only takes one or
mm-hmm.
two to really ruin the season.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I've had my experiences with those stage parents, and like I said, my advice to parents is just let your kids enjoy the sport, and you just pay the bills.
Which there are plenty of.
Can you edit that out?
Mute, beep, 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 beep. No, he was
Joking.
just cussing, y'all. He was just cussing. Didn't say anything. Well, Ray, I love you, and I'm so happy that I
I
got to
love you too,
finally
man.
to catch up with you. Catch up, number one, and number two, to get
Yeah,
to introduce
I
you to like
appreciate
the
it.
3 or 4 people in the world that may not know who you are. So
Awesome.
so thank you so
Well, I
much
can't
for.
wait to see you, man. I'll see you. It's right around the corner.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
When are you're just in a few weeks you'll be back down?
Yeah. So we've been kind of zooming with all the gym owners and Action Spirit and trying to figure out, creative ways to make the season start back up. And,
Mm-hmm.
every state's in a different phase. So we've had to push all our schedules a month back, and basically rearrange everybody's choreography and schedule and whatnot. And
Yeah.
we're onto something though. We're being proactive, and
Well,
we're moving forward.
Well, I definitely want to make sure that we put contact information for you. So if there are
Yeah,
programs that are looking to work with you, or depending on how scheduling goes, at least maybe get
yeah,
some advice from you of what they can do to get their season started off in the right direction.
absolutely.
I would
Yeah,
love to connect them with you. So, but I'll let you go.
that'd
Thank
be
you so
great.
much for joining me.
All right, all right, man. Thanks,
All right,
Travis.
we'll talk soon.
All right, man.
All right, see ya.
See ya.